I just let it slide and wait until they notice they don't have a plate to eat off and then they do it? Or do I say something? Like, that's, always my, it's probably better not to say something and for them just to realize it, saves me the annoying points. But yeah, sometimes, like my son's like, why do we have to take out the trash so much? I was like, well, it fills it up. It's like, I did this yesterday. Well, you have to do it again today. They don't realize, I think, the frequency. But I just did this last week. Well, we have to do it every week, But, that's those life skills. I mean, they have to learn that this stuff needs to get done. And, it's not magic. Someone needs to do it. So, it's not always fun. But once we get it done, they feel good. And, they're contributing to the family. And then when they leave the nest, they'll be ready to take care of themselves, which is what the ultimate goal is, right? We're giving them the skills they need to be a fully functioning adult.
Hi, and welcome to the Sunday Lunch Project Manager podcast for Sunday, the 2nd of July, 2023. Today I have on the show, first part of my conversation with Hilary Kinney, the parenting project manager, or the project managing parent. You decide. Anyway, speak soon. Enjoy. So, what's going on? First, and a bit of an apology. I think you'll probably notice a few gremlins and a missed episode last week. I've had a few challenges, technically and both time-wise, over the past month or so. So, no intro in Melissa's show the last show. I skipped one last week, and then this week a few gremlins coming in, and part 2 published before part 1 by accident. So if you listened to part 2 already and you've got part 1, well, apologies, and you've got a week off next week, I should say, but part 2 will be down next week. So apologies for that. I think, interestingly enough, talking to Alex Kingsbury the other week, I've been looking at how I can improve the production time and checklists, and there's been a few things going on with work, which meant that just fitting in time and fitting in the post-interview processing, and actually some of the interviews have been moving around with some of the family things that have been going on as well. So it's but I think it's some new processes and procedures to kind of improve things. So apologies for the missed stuff and the slightly different experience you've been getting. Interesting thing on that, I've been thinking about whether one of the reasons why I went with the weekly shows was because the amount of interviews I was getting meant that there was lots of things backing up, and I had lots of people I could put out. I wanted to balance that with not having to have every week to be worrying about getting someone on the show. So I am contemplating not having the 2-part show, have the single-part show, maybe skipping a week. But I'd actually like to hear from you guys out there who do listen, and kind of give me your opinion. So if you have a view, ping me, social media, ping me on email, or I'll drop out the newsletter as well, asking for your opinions. So a little vote thing going on somewhere. It's a bit of a juggle. Though I, again, have got quite a few potential interviewees and lined up interviewees already. That's it really on that side of the fence. Other stuff going on, what's been going on? Personal stuff. Kind of family things really has been the focus over the last few months. My eldest moves on to college, so she's just finished all her exams and is now prepping for 6th form and getting her new job and things like that. So a lot of change there, and my little one's moving up to secondary school. So a lot of change, so very pertinent to the parenting conversation I had with Hilary. It's always change, I find, and that it's so relatable to projects. As project manager, we kind of deliver a project and think the next one, right, okay, next one will be straightforward, simple, but it's not, it's different, and there's always something different. And it's the same with family. There's always something every year, something new, something different, new characters changing in the way people are and things like that. And it's so being able to apply these different ways of thinking at different times is essential, especially as a parent. You've got to adjust constantly, but yeah, so that's where on that side of the fence it's quite new, with proms and last days, sports days and things going on, so all change here. Trying to think what else I've missed, because I haven't said a few words to you guys for quite some time. Had a good holiday in the half term we have over in the UK. Got a good relax there, and in the July, coming talking to holidays during August, I will be on leave. I'll be putting out some older shows that some of you may not have listened to from a couple of years ago as sort of replays, and then be back early September after celebrating my 25th wedding anniversary, which will be great as well. That's it really. I'm going to leave you to listen to the first part of Hillary's, the conversation with Hillary, and speak to you soon. Cheers. Today I am delighted to welcome Hillary Kinney, PMP, to the show. She is a project manager with 17 years of experience at Fortune 500 companies. She's also a proud mother of an elementary school student. Her career achievement ranged from facilitating a C-suite sponsored customer recognition programs across 7,000 properties globally, to directing special projects and strategic communications for the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company President's Office. Hillary earned a BS in Hotel Administration from Cornell University. She holds the PMP certification from the Project Management Institute, and is as well as a Change Practitioner certification from Prosci. I can never say that right. Change Management Prosci. Change Management Leadership Centre. She lives with her family in Washington DC area, and she is the author of a book called Project Management for Parents. Engage the family, build teamwork, succeed together. So, and for those watching video, you will have seen a little pop-up of that book in front of Hillary's face. Hillary, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. So there's quite a lot of stuff I read out there, but just want to give us a little bit more about where you are, a little bit more background, and how you got into this game, maybe.
Well, I love project management. I think it fits my personality. I love the satisfaction of rolling out a project. I love working with teams. I love getting to know people. Sort of an extrovert, so that goes well with project management. And I also like to think about how we use project management in our day-to-day life. And I didn't really realize how much I used it until I started writing this book. And I was like, oh, there are a lot of parallels, because, they say once a project manager, always a project manager. Yeah. But when I started to put pen to paper, I really realized there's a lot more here than I thought. And there's a lot we can do as project managers to make our lives easier at home, too. And it's, we already know a lot of the principles, so it's easy to implement and apply. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I've always said project management's a life skill. It's kind of I've kind of banged on about it, and I talked before. I've got 2 daughters, and the first time I realised I was using the skills, although I was probably a little bit before, was when we have 3 windows in the kitchen that are next to each other, that's segregated kind of in squares, sort of like rectangles, vertical. And we were doing a large amount of garden work, and we were all getting together to do it as the 4 family. And I was there sitting, well, we've got all these things. Let's write all these things we've got to do. I took all on sticky notes. So on the left hand square, there was to do. The middle hand was doing, and the other one was done. And I kind of set up this Kanban board, and I thought,
Yeah, I've become.
I've
I am
got the bug.
project management nerd.
Yes. Yeah. And, you could see what needed to be done. Yeah, I started really thinking about it when the pandemic hit, and I started hearing about all the parents that were really struggling, that, I have to be a teacher, I have to do my work, there are no activities, I have to figure out activities for my kids. And I was like, all right, this kind of feels like work when you get assigned a project, you don't have enough time to roll it out, and you don't have enough people to get the work done, and you're like, how am I going to get this done? But I have to get it done. And you get it done, right? You make it happen. So I was like, this feels a lot like work. So I just wrote a 5 points and a LinkedIn article and said, hey, I think, this might help you. And then it just took off from there.
Yeah.
It became
ballooned.
Very popular. Yeah.
I think it's right. It's funny, though, isn't it? It's how you... and looking at your book, I was thinking today, it's project management for parents. Now, am I a parent who's a project manager? Or am I a project manager who's a parent? Mm-hmm. I started to think about that, and it's kind of an interesting thing, and the fact that you end up... I think, through necessity, and I've seen it with people who aren't project managers, but I think it's a life skill, but I think you become a project manager, but especially the person who is the main caregiver at home. Mm-hmm. They become that coordinator, whether it's the planner, the diary planner on the screen for all the different clubs that people go to, different things that are going on at school and all that thing. That's again, it's that visual management board, isn't it? And people do it, and actually the skills that we have as project managers in those some of the fundamentals aren't magic skills. They're common sense. Got to do something, break it down into its component parts, right? Work out the dependence. You do that anyway. You do that when you're making a cup of tea, for goodness sake. Though people will argue about whether you put milk in first or the tea or the water in first, and they're kind of okay. So you got a bit different orders, but actually there's a following a recipe. There's so
to make sure it comes out. You want to heat up the water first.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you didn't. Well, iced tea maybe, but whatever. But it is that it is. It's funny like, when you go on. Sorry,
because it's like people do it, but they don't realize they're doing it.
Yeah,
and then sort of we do it to the nth degree for these much bigger projects. But it's almost like when you bring it back, they're kind of like, oh. And then when you lay it out for them, it's sort of like this light bulb that goes off in their head. They're like, oh, that makes so much sense. And some people, I'm surprised though, some people just don't have that skill set, and they really have to be trained on it, or even kids, like when they're learning, how to organize their homework. It's definitely a learned skill that they have to learn at some point. So, I'd love to, I love how you can teach your kids these skills too, for them to apply. But you're right. It's kind of like, a lot of people are doing it already. And just in terms of whoever's, doing a lot of that, I mean, if it's one person in the household, they call it the mental load of all the stuff that's going on in your head that needs to happen. And as a project manager, we just put it down on paper and we can see it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that my wife and Jodie and I started doing a while back, and kind of what comes in and out, is like, because I'm terrible with physical, although I've got a whiteboard where I've scribbled stuff on recently, I'm not great with a calendar at home here. Mm-hmm. So I very rarely look at it. I forget to look at it, because unless it's on my phone, I don't know what's going on in life. Yeah. Because that's my default. Everything goes into visual,
there. Yeah.
That control is there for me, and I'll use notifications and ignore them and all those sort of things. But we kind of experimented with, we got the Alexas and don't you start.
She's like, yes, what can I do for you?
Yeah. Well, what I was playing with a few years ago was using Trello board for us to use for things that we needed to remember, rather than writing on the wall or different things, or shopping list or everything. Mm-hmm. And both Jodie and my eldest Beau were using, I managed to get them both using a Trello board for their own sort of time management kind of thing. Great. And then when you've got shared Trello board, you can kind of throw things up on there of how you want to use it. And I had I'm a parenting well moment that I felt not long, a few years ago, was Beau had scribbled a load of stuff on her arm that she'd been in school. She hadn't been to use her phone in the class. And she's like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just putting this on my Trello board. And it's
You're
like, yeah, my work's
like,
done here.
Proud dad.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's I shared a picture on LinkedIn the other day, I think it was. We were just going through the because she's in year 11, so she's just doing her GCSEs, which is kind of the sort of I don't know what the equivalent is. I think it's a couple of years below the high school diploma in the US or whatever. I'm not quite sure how it works. And we were looking at her revision timetable, which is leading up to the middle of June, end of June, when she's got all her exams. And we've got a whiteboard, and we've drawn it all out, and we've got yellow stickies on there of when she's revising for which one, when the exam is,
great.
and gone back.
Yeah.
And I sat and looked at her. I went, "Oh no, we're doing resource levelling now." Because she's allocated her hours, and I'm like, right, you've got 2 hours there. And I realised, like, dependencies were in there, resource levelling was in there, and I'm like, oh, it's just weird what you're doing.
How it happens. Yeah, and then one thing we've used Post-its for is we had a Super Bowl party, for football, American football here, and we had a lot to get done, and I was like, all right, well, let's figure out what we need to get done, and let's so we each came up with the ideas of what we needed to do, and we wrote it on the Post-its, and then we divided them up. And this was a little more intentional, like, we need to figure out what needs to be done. So then we each picked one, and then we resource leveled and moved them around a little bit, made sure it was fair. Then we stuck it up on a piece of paper, and then when we were done, we would take them off. And we got there. Like, we had a fun party, and I wasn't overwhelmed because I was doing everything, and my son felt like he contributed, and and he took a little more ownership in the party, and it felt good. It felt good that I was the one that they all participated, and we all did it together, and it wasn't just me telling them what needed to be done. I think is a big part with the family, because I think with the family, like, it's more, it's not like, people are getting paid to do this, and, it's all based on relationships. So it's a different focus, I think, it's more on learning and working together than, task management and driving for those results.
Yeah, I think it's funny how the differences and the parallels between working in the office, working with the family, and you said relationships there, and the communication, clear boundaries, all of those things. You kind of sit there and go, right, for kids, what kids want, they want clear boundaries. You set them clear boundaries. You give them too much freedom, and they don't know what's reasonable. Give them too much constraint, and they're going to push against it. And it's about balancing the boundaries there, and what they can and can't do, and level of control and self thing. But it's the same with any of us sitting in a job. If someone sits there and says, right, you've got to do that job, Nige, and unless they communicate clearly what my boundaries of accountability are, what my boundaries of authority are, what the expectations are of me in that role, it becomes very difficult to work out how far to step, how far you've got to step, and whether you're doing the right thing. And it's a slightly different emphasis, but it gives I think it gives the same sort of questions. And because whilst we are grown up, some of us grown up, at the heart we're still a human, and we like to be able to be communicated in a certain way, and we have our own foibles and things like that. And I don't think there's a vast difference all the time. That, like, say about getting paid to do it, that is a motivation for going there and doing it. But actually, just because you have power as the project manager, and love watching the fact that, well, I don't love it, it annoys me, but I have a weird pleasure watching The Apprentice, where they assign a project manager, and there's always one in every season, if not every show, where someone tells someone, I'm the project manager, therefore you should do what I say.
And they're like, well, you have no authority over me.
Yeah, it's just you can't just tell them to do it, can you? So you still got to persuade at work, and you've got to cajole at home. Although you have authority as a parent, you still, cajole's a bad word, but you've still got that negotiation, that relationship, and that influence without power that you've got to apply, because the power has so far to go.
Yeah.
And once you get beyond a certain point, it become applying and using that role power stops becoming productive, I think.
Right, and they're not willing. They won't put in do as good a job, or be willing to do it, or be as enthusiastic, and you won't get as good an output. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that relationship definitely helps at work, and it helps at home. Yeah, I find people are hesitant to use project management at home because they're like, oh, they're not going to go for it because it's, you're just waving a checklist at me. But I think if you get the family involved and ask their opinion and show them the benefits, and, it's basically a way of, like you said, communicating more clearly, and it's just, if you look at it, I think more of as a communication tool than a getting stuff done tool, and teaching your kids how to, like to your point, to be organized and think and analyze and problem solve. I think it's more palatable than just being like, okay, I'm going to come in and we're going to like turn our home into a fast moving company. That's not the goal. It's just to free up more time, get more efficient, reduce the confusion or the animosity in getting things done, and make things easier on the whole family. And sort of just get things done faster. Because, it's not like we do this because we want to do more things at home. We want to get it done so we can do fun things together, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just,
exactly.
Not waste time, being disorganized or, falling or forgetting about something. Like, let's consolidate and be organized in a way that improves the quality of life, not, makes it more onerous. Because, at work, I'm, the same way. No one likes the project manager that's asking for status updates every week that don't go anywhere, right? Like, it's annoying. Like, don't ask me for stuff that you don't need just to fill out your report that's not going to go anywhere. Yeah. I think it's important to keep it simple and keep it in a way that's useful. Like, don't put process into place just for the sake of process.
I agree entirely. I think the worst, and I completely empathise with anyone in this situation, is if you as the PM go to someone and say, right, give me an update on status and what blockers or anything that you've got a problem with. And they give you a list of things that stop them doing the job. And then you go away as a project manager and don't look at how you resolve those blockers.
Right. You're not
and then the following week, when they give you the status report and they haven't made any more progress, and you go, why haven't you made more progress? Because of those blockers from I can imagine that that's what gives us as project managers a bad name, where we're post boxes rather than a route to solve a problem.
Right, we're just paperwork pushers and filling out reports. We're not helping them move things along. Yeah,
and it's like I know at the moment I've got a couple of things on my hopper from one of my team that I was going to do on Monday and I didn't do it. It isn't going to stop them at the minute, but it will stop them. At some point, if I don't pull my finger out and sort it, which I've got to do tomorrow. And quite rightly, if I haven't done it, I would expect them to have a go at me. Not in a nasty way, but kind of like, look, if you ain't done it, we ain't going to do our bit, and it's going to affect you.
Yeah.
And I've got to do those sort of things. And whilst there is an element of, I think in every organisation there's going to be an element of wasted activities. I think once you get beyond a certain size of organisation, there are things that are done just in case, not because they're needed. They're done just in case somebody asks for it, or just to be sure that if there was ever some remonstration, a problem in the future, that someone can say, yeah, we've done all these things, whereas they don't actually always move something forward. They kind of just be there for the sake of it. Or just because the efficiencies that you need in the organisation haven't been put in there. And so, there's something that has to be duplicated or something like that. And I think we have to accept those things and kind of go, well, yeah, that's crap, but it's crap we've got to put up with.
We've got to do it anyway, right?
Yeah, and it's the same at home, isn't it? It's
yeah, like, try explaining that to your kid. yeah.
I can just hear some crockery being moved in the dining room here, and that means that the dishwasher's being filled.
Well, that's good. Kind of, that's progress. Yeah,
which means that, and to be fair, it's a job I used to do. I don't do it anymore very often. It's really good. It's been delegated, and it's done. I did my instructions on how to do it correctly. but it's one of those things that it's kind of sometimes it's not done. And it's something that I don't want to do. And I know no one else ever wants to do it. But actually, I do want a plate to eat off tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, my always question is, do I just let it slide and wait until they notice they don't have a plate to eat off and then they do it? Or do I say something? Yeah. Like, that's, always my, it's probably better not to say something and for them just to realize it, saves me the annoying points. But yeah, sometimes... Yeah, like my son's like, why do we have to take out the trash so much? I was like, well, it fills it up. It's like, I did this yesterday. Well, you have to do it again today. They don't realize, I think, the frequency. But I just did this last week. Well, we have to do it every week, But, that's those life skills. I mean, they have to learn that this stuff needs to get done. And, it's not magic. Someone needs to do it. So... it's not always fun, but once we get it done, they feel good and, they're contributing to the family. And then when they leave the nest, they'll be ready, to take care of themselves, which is what the ultimate goal is, right? We're giving them the skills they need to be a fully functioning adult, Yeah.
That's the job, isn't it? That's the project of raising a child.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want a project that manages them forever. It's just like it's like teaching them the skills, practice the skills, and then they can use them.
Yeah, I think there's a kind of concept of you get them to a certain point, and then there's a life service, in life support that you have to do that runs for quite a long time, isn't it? Once they've grown and left.
What do you mean in terms of just keeping?
In terms of children, yeah, is it? Like
there's always something.
Yeah, you're always going to be on call.
Yeah. Some business as usual things that need to happen. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
To keep the operation running.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's an interest.
Once it deploys, there's some sustainability things that need to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then
making sure those are taken care of. Yeah.
It's funny parallels, isn't it, to draw? So just talking about the book, and obviously we've delve straight into the book, and it's a topic that I'm sure we were talking earlier about my in quotes avatar that I envisage as my listener between in their 30s and above, and probably in this spot of either about to or having children, and therefore a lot of and I would say a lot of people I know are project managers are parents as well, and I think it's an interesting, although it benefits across people who aren't in project management and will teach people their own skills. But what was the approach that you took to the book? Give us a little outline of what's in the book. Things like that, kind of.
Yeah. So this wasn't really I didn't have a big plan, I guess. It started from a LinkedIn article, turned into a speech for International Project Management Day. So honestly, I just started thinking through the different project management functions and thinking, okay, so what applies, what makes sense, what can I pull through to parenting in a way that makes sense? And so I started writing, and I started sending it to friends of mine who aren't project managers, just to as my beta testers, so what do you think? Does this make sense? Do you get this? Do you not? Just to kind of pressure test it, because I wasn't sure if this made sense or was a good idea or not. And they're like, yeah, this totally makes sense. Love it. Keep going. And I had only casually mentioned teamwork and team building and the importance of teams at work to get work done. And they're like, can you tell me more about that? I'd love to do that with my family to really create this high performing team at home. So that part I ended up building out further. So the first part of the book, because at work I do this all the time. When I take on a new project, I kind of survey the people on the team, survey the dynamics, and kind of figure out, okay, do these people know each other? Do they not know each other? As a project manager, what do I need to do to sort of create this really productive working environment to turn us into a really high-performing team so that we can achieve really great results together? So, I started, talking about, team building and communication plans and change management and getting buy-in. And so that's the first part of the book, is really focusing on the people and how we work together and being clear. You can even go so far as creating a vision board for your family and what do you want to do together. You can take it that far if you want, or you can just focus on activities together and and check-in meetings to talk through what's going on in the family and how do you coordinate it. So there's just a whole lot of benefits to do at the beginning to build that teamwork. And then the second part of the book is like those skills, and I sort of run them through a project plan. Like first I talk about scoping and apply it to like organizing an event. And the beautiful thing about, scoping anything, the who, what, when, where, why, how, is you can apply that to any project you have at home. Like, is it a vacation? Yeah. Is it an event, like a party? Whatever you have going on.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that first part of that interview with Hilary. Come back next week and we'll have the second part. Speak to you soon. Look out yourself. Bye. So this is my final wrap-up. Every week you're going to hear this. You're going to get bored of it, but you can always click next podcast if so. If you have enjoyed it, if you listen to this podcast to the end of this show and you think, that was great, I'd love to be able to help Nigel out, there are loads of ways you can do it. The first and obvious way is to share the podcast. Send it out to people. If you know colleagues and friends who'd benefit from it, you think they'd enjoy it, just send them the link. Grab one of the links or send them to www.nigelcreaser.com/podcasts. That's www.nigelcreaser.com/podcasts, and that will push them over to a Linktree link, and it's got all of the different ways they can consume the podcast. If you are feeling generous and have a big bag of cash, you could grab a copy of one of my books. Obviously, they're available in all the usual places, and print and digital. Again, jump on the website, www.nigelcreaser.com/shop, and that will give you a list of all the different ways that you can contribute and grab copies of the book. Also got links to all my guests' books on there as well, where I get a little bit of a kickback from them. If you are of a sporting mind, I have a number through doing some of my judo and running antics. I've managed to secure a few affiliate links and affiliates there as well. So in there, somewhere in the sponsors page, there's links to those as well. So clicking onto those and grabbing if you're looking to get super fit, then that would be fabulous as well, and I get a little kickback from those. I have a Patreon account. It's patreon.com/sundaylunchpm. So again, you can ping something in there, buy me a coffee or whatever. And finally, obviously the most important is coming back, listen again, because the more of you that come back, the more visibility I get, because there's more times that it's downloaded and all the SEO works and things like that. So yeah, that's it. So if you can help me out, I would be much appreciated. If you can't, don't worry about it. Thank you very much. Cheers now. Bye. Well, it's goodbye from me, Nigel Creaser, and it's goodbye from him, the Sunday Lunch PM. Goodbye.
Introduction. Hi, and welcome to Project Manager Productivity Hacks. Why write another book on productivity hacks? Are there not enough of them already? The trigger was my interview with Sarah M. Hoban for my podcast, the Sunday Lunch Project Manager Podcast. Plug. Find out more at www.nigelcreaser.com/Sarah M. Hoban. We talked about improving productivity for project managers, and during the conversation I recalled that a while ago I started a blog post in which I plan to share some ideas that I have used in my career to improve my productivity and get out of the office that little bit earlier. Over the years I have shared these with others, and almost every time I received a positive and enthusiastic response. Having rekindled the idea, I sat down and noted 11 hacks, tips, shortcuts, whatever you want to call them, that I have used over the years. Why 11? Well, it's one more than 10. This book goes up to 11. one for the Spinal Tap fans. I see productivity as remarkably similar to an exercise program. We all start off with good intentions, and some of the changes work great for us and others don't. Some changes stick and become part of our daily life, whereas others are just a real chore. Even the ones we found that work well for us and are straightforward to implement can, under certain circumstances, end up being dropped by us. Sometimes this happens consciously, and sometimes little by little over time. Whether building healthier habits or improving our productivity, it's not just a case of making the changes, and we are done. It takes repeated work. If you find them hard to implement, then they may not be for you in your current situation. If you start using them and end up letting them drift, then start again. Improving our productivity is something many of us strive to achieve, aiming for some kind of efficiency nirvana. Let me tell you, it ain't gonna happen. Perfection is a myth. Give yourself a break. It's a bit like yoga. You can't win at yoga. No matter how bendy you get, you can always be bendier. That's the same with personal productivity. You can't win at productivity. You can always be productivier.
Ed, is that a word?
I have not always been able to apply these hacks successfully, but that is not a reflection of the hacks themselves. It is more about my ability to stick with them even though I know they work. One last point, as with your fitness regime, trying to make loads of changes at once can spell disaster. I recommend that once you have a read of these hacks, choose one that excites you, maybe not excites but seems to resonate, and have a go at it. Once it is second nature to you, move on to the next one that spoke to you. If you find that the first one was not for you, then bin it. Choose another and try that one out, then rinse and repeat. So on with the hacks.